This is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and this one's going to be a fun one. I'm here in the kitchen making dinner using my favorite spiral slicing tool and some zucchini, and we're going to make my kick-ass zucchini pasta with no nuts. Just kidding. Actually, I'm not doing a recipe demo today for you guys, actually, and as you guys noticed, actually, I don't have a whole lot of recipe demos on YouTube. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other channels that'll make you guys recipe demos. What I'm here to do is actually I'm here to teach you the nuts and bolts, my tips and techniques and tricks that I've learned over the past 18 years that have been raw that'll allow you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, you know, while recipes are good, I'm teaching you the nuts and bolts, man. The stuff you guys really need to know to make this diet happen. Anybody could teach a recipe. You could do a recipe today and then go back to eating McDonald's tomorrow. I want to teach you the skills you need to improve your diet no matter where you're at. And if you like my format, you like that I don't have a lot of recipe videos, I want to encourage you guys to actually thumbs up this video to let me know that my mission is working, and I'll continue to make some awesome content for you guys to share literally what I've learned over the last 18 years that I've been into the raw foods diet. Another thing before I go on is I want to encourage you guys to subscribe to my channel. So there's a little subscribe button on the YouTube page right now, right here. You want to click that subscribe button so that you'll be notified of all my upcoming videos that I share all these tips and tricks with you guys so that you guys can be successful at eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, because that's what my channel is all about. In any case, what today's episode is going to be about is sharing 2 tips that's going to basically guarantee to improve your diet, whether it's a raw food diet or any diet, no matter what you're on, in this talk I gave in Topanga, California at the Fruit Luck, Evan Rock's Fruit Luck. If you are in the Los Angeles area, you want to go on meetup.com and search for Fruit Luck, and it's a great place, gave a great talk. Everybody had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, but more importantly, learned a lot of stuff too that's going to help them eat more fruits and vegetables, and now you get to have the inside scoop and watch it here first. So in any case, without further ado, let's go into that clip. Enjoy. Alright, hello, thank you everybody. So how many people have seen some of my videos on YouTube? Wow, like almost everybody, that's cool. Alright, so today I'm basically going to give a really quick talk here for, I don't know really time on, but a half hour. Basically I want to let you guys know my story, number 1, which is really important, and it's going to explain a lot of things. Number 2, I'm going to share about basically 2 tips to better your raw foods diet no matter where you're at in your journey. So I guess with that, I'll start with sharing my story. How many people have heard my story like in one of my YouTube videos? Wow, only just a few. So basically, to make my story short, because I don't want to sit here because I could give an hour-long talk on my story and get into all the details. But I got into raw foods because I had a health crisis in my life. What happened to me was right after college, I was hospitalized with spinal meningitis. And this is the viral version of spinal meningitis, so there is no cure from the medical system for that. So literally I was in the hospital, I woke up in the intensive care unit, and I asked the doctors, when am I going to get out of here? Because my whole mentality was like, if you get sick, you go to the doctors, and my whole thought was, they make you better, and then you go home. So, you know, at the point when I asked the doctor, hey doctor, you know, when am I going to get out of here? He said, you might not ever make it out of here. And I mean, like, here I am in my 20s, just graduated from college. I have my whole life ahead of me, and I'm like, holy crap, this is not cool. You know, I might not make it out of here. Like, this is not supposed to happen to me until I'm like way older, man, like my grandparents' age or something, right? So I really like had a lot of time to think because I really couldn't do anything. They did actually a spinal tap, so they stick like a needle into your spine. It hurts, man. That was probably hurt worse more than the disease itself. But man, like my back, even after I got out of the hospital, I just remember it hurting for like days. It was terrible. But anyways, I had a lot of time to think in the hospital because they couldn't really do anything to me. I was like IV'd and just resting and I don't know, you know, whatever they were doing. And I really thought about like, what's really important right now, John? Is it important if you had $1 million in the bank? Could you write a check to Mr. Doctor, $1 million, do not cash unless I walk out of here? You know, even if they had all the money, it wouldn't do anything. I mean, some of the most richest people that probably live here in Southern California, you know, lose their lives of cancer, strokes, heart disease, just like every other American, right? So, you know, that wouldn't have done me any good having all the money. So then I thought, man, well, if money's not important, maybe that car, maybe I wanted that car so I could pick up the chicks, you know? Would that done me any good in the hospital? No, because I'd be gone and it'd be still sitting there. So I'm like, what's really important, John? And I finally figured it out. Man, I got it. This is the most important thing. I can't think of anything else that's more important than this. And guess what it was?
Health.
Oh, you guys got it, man. I can go home now. My health was more important to me because I almost lost it. And in this day and age, it's very unfortunate, in my opinion, that most people just do not take their health as a priority. I mean, people take it for granted. You know, they're walking around, they're, you know, going to fast food restaurants. You know, if they really knew and took their health for, you know, as something that's really important to them and valuable, maybe they wouldn't eat that McDonald's hamburger. Maybe you wouldn't put in some highly processed food into your body because you know it's not going to affect you in a good way. I mean, we know that eating animal proteins, animal products, you know, you'll get things like diabetes. It can promote things like cancer and, you know, heart disease. You know, it's pretty much proven. So at that point, I'm like, man, John, your health is the most important thing. Your health is your greatest wealth. I mean, we've all heard that saying, but usually goes in one ear and out the other. But I really, after this talk, hopefully today, you guys really take that to heart. So, I mean, there's things in my life that I forego because my health is more important to me. So, for example, one that's really fun, because I know probably almost everybody here owns one of these things, a cell phone. So many people, I mean, almost probably everybody here has a cell phone. And yes, I'm going to say I do own a cell phone publicly, but I'll say I put like 0 to 2 minutes on it. Usually it's 0. It might be 2 minutes if I'm traveling and there's a real emergency that I really need to use my cell phone on. I mean, unless it's something really important, I just don't use it. I have it because it's definitely important to have in case you need it, because, you know, you might just need it, and I travel a bunch. But in general, I just do not use my cell phone, even though I pay for $25 for my plan that I'm on. And I don't use any minutes, but I have one. I also am able to hook it up through my laptop to get internet on my laptop, which is another reason why I have it. But when I do that, it hooks up wirelessly, so I can have my cell phone over there near the car and my laptop here, and I could be working online and all the radiation's way over there. Because the cell phone, you know, to hit the cell phone repeater, I don't know if you could see any, you know, while we're here, but it's like 2 miles away. So the cell phone has to transmit a signal to hit a repeater 2 miles away, and that's a lot of energy going right at your head if you're holding it, even, or worse, down here if you have it on your belt clip, and then you have a headset. You know, it's radiating your whole area. And in my opinion, some of the research I've seen from Europe, you know, it shows that, you know, things like cell phones have basically risen dramatically, the incidences of brain cancer and maybe infertility and things like that. And I mean, these things like this, you know, in the U.S., in my opinion, are being suppressed. Just like smoking in the 70s or the 60s, you know, it was debonair, it was cool, and now every pack of cigarettes has, you know, cancer warnings on it. And, you know, as we found out later, it was totally a cover-up. And I mean, industries are huge. The cell phone industry, if everybody's here paying $30, maybe even a $50 a month plan, and everybody's doing that, they're making massive amounts of money on this stuff. And in my opinion, it's going to take a negative effect on your health. Even if it doesn't take a negative effect on your health, I would personally rather be safe than sorry. Like, if somebody ate McDonald's their whole life and found out that McDonald's is the reason why they're in the hospital and they're about to lose their life in 5 minutes because they're just going to have their last final stroke that's going to take them out, and if they said, well, you got this because you ate McDonald's your whole life, would you do something different? Or did you really enjoy the McDonald's that much? You know, so do I really enjoy talking on the cell phone to connect to somebody to say, hey, what's up? I'll be home in 5 minutes, or should I just go home in 5 minutes and save my brain from radiation? I'd rather save my brain, but I want everybody to have the choice to do whatever they want. I'm never going to tell anybody what they should do, but these are the choices I make, and I want you to be aware that these are the choices that you can make, whether you want to sacrifice your brain, have cancer at the end of your life, and be told, oh, it happened because of the cell phone. You could be like, shit, that dude John was right that time. I mean, whatever, it's all good. But now you guys are at least aware. And there's other things too in life, you know, besides just the food that I put into my body. It's like the cleaning products I use in my home. I mean, I still work on my own car because it's a lot cheaper, and I don't trust a lot of people that I take my car to that are mechanics. They always try to charge you more money than they're supposed to, or as many times they've messed up actually on my car and give it back to me worse. So I change my own oil, and, you know, I put gloves on, and I change the gloves like 3 times while I'm doing it because I don't want the stuff to seep through into my hands. I mean, I drive a biodiesel fueled car, a diesel car that I put biodiesel in, which is made from vegetable oil, because I had a Jeep Wrangler that you have to flip down the license plate and then put the gas in. And I was filling the gas one time, and the nozzle spilled out, and then it spilled on my hands, and I'm like, man, I'm eating raw foods for like 5 years now. Now I got all this gas absorbing into me. And then before I could do anything, some dude from the station came over with a spray bottle and he's spraying shit on my hands. I'm like, crap, now not only do I have MTBE gas, but now I have all this other toxic shit on me too. Like, what the hell? And I'm like, this is bullshit. I gotta get away from the gas stuff. I mean, even if you go to the gas station, like at the gas station when you're filling, in California here, there's like a label, Prop 65 warning. You know, things at this station may cause cancer and stuff. I mean, they tell you, but people just ignore it because, oh, I gotta put gas in my car. No, you don't have to. You could get a diesel car and put biodiesel in there, which is like vegetable oil converted into a fuel for your car that's non-toxic. You could spill it on the ground, it's gonna compost down, and if you spill it on you, it's like getting cooking oil on you. You wipe it off. And so now I don't have to, you know, breathe the gasoline fumes either to, like, you know, hopefully save my health. But once again, many people do not think about these things. So, you know, there's just many aspects, you know, to think about that. Now, the biggest aspect, of course, you are what you eat, which is another famous saying. And that's why, you know, another thing is I got into the raw foods diet because my health was my greatest wealth. I almost lost it. After I got out of the hospital, I said, hey, doctor, why did I get the spinal meningitis? And what he said was, you got the spinal meningitis because you have what's called complement immune deficiency syndrome. And basically, that's long, fancy words for basically meaning, he said, basically, I have defective genes. So my genes were like not as strong as a normal person's. So I'm more, you know, afflicted with things because my immune system can't fight it off. It's like, why would your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or whatever sometimes have a cold, and you're around them, maybe you're sharing the same utensils, maybe you're, you know, getting intimate with them, but you don't get sick. And that's because, you know, we all have immune systems that, you know, we could fight off things. But my immune system was so depressed based on my genes, plus also the food that I was eating, so that I got, you know, stricken with this illness. So upon leaving the hospital, I knew that I needed to do something to build my immune system because, you know, one thing was for sure is that I just did not want to be back in the hospital ever again, and the doctor telling me that, hey, you might not make it out of there alive. Because that's not a fun place to be in any situation. So then at that point I was like really motivated to do something different. Like, what can I do? And I had no clue. I was just out of college. I didn't really, I mean, I thought I ate healthy. I didn't eat red meat. Actually, I didn't drink alcohol at that time. I read my ingredient labels and thought I was a pretty good vegetarian who ate chicken and fish still. So technically I really wasn't a vegetarian, but you know how that is. So anyways, at that point, I knew I needed to build my immune system. The first step to introduce me to the raw foods diet was called Jay Kordich, the Juice Man. Maybe a couple of people have seen his infomercials way back in the day, or at least the Saturday Night Live spoof with Jim Carrey. Yeah, you guys saw that one. So basically I saw the Juice Man infomercial on TV. Jay Kordich got up there, he was juicing carrots and this and that in his juicer, and he said, you know, juicing, you get healthier, you could lose weight, and you could build your immune system. So that's all I needed to hear. I'm like, well, I gotta have that juicer, I gotta build my immune system because I'm not ending back up in the hospital. So I got the juicer. And to make a long story short, I was juicing for about 6 months, and then I actually was at a health food store buying my produce to juice in. And I would basically juice for breakfast and eat a pretty much, you know, maybe like a salad and some other stuff for lunch. And then the mid-afternoon I have another juice, and then for dinner I just have my regular dinner. So this is actually a good transition into raw foods because like half of my diet, you know, 2 meals a day was juice, and then 2 more meals. It was all raw, but it wasn't like I was going raw, I was just drinking juice. And then later I was at a health food store, and there was a book on the bottom shelf. It was actually called Cleanse and Purify Thyself by Dr. Richard Anderson. How many people have heard of such a book? A couple old timers here, and young timer. So this book talked about colon cleansing and cleaning out your colon. And you know, once you get your colon clean, you're not going to want to do and go back to the foods you're eating, you know, before you went on this cleanse. And in this book they said, you know, there was pictures of all this like fecal matter rope things that come out of you and like all kinds of crazy stuff, but there's some really good testimonials in there. And I, you know, some of this stuff like that came out of me, and I don't know if it was fecal material rope or what it was, but I can tell you something, once I passed it I felt a whole lot better. That's all I know. And the other thing that happened is in the book they talked about like all these testimonies of people having skin conditions and clearing up, and people with psoriasis clearing up, and all this kind of stuff, and people just being healthier. So like as a child, I had a skin condition called eczema and ichthyosis. And, you know, the doctors would always give me hydrocortisone creams for my skin. And then if you look at my hands, you're like, man, John, you don't look that old. What's up with your hands? I know, mine too. You know, and that's because, like, as a kid, I would constantly put hydrocortisone creams on my hands. And that stuff, like, it's steroids, man. It's like, wow, those bodybuilder dudes look like hella older than they are and stuff. That really prematurely ages you. And like, they never told me that, the doctors never told me, they're like, oh yeah, put this on your hands. It never fixed the problem. It might have stopped maybe make it itching, but I still had the issue. So even the doctors with all the hydrocortisone creams that I put on, it couldn't fix my skin condition. You know, the doctor, I always asked the doctor when I was younger, when I was a kid, like, doctor, when am I gonna, get better from this stuff? Is there anything you could give me? And he gave me one slight tinge of hope when I was like maybe 10 or 11. He said, okay, John, when you're 13, your hormones are gonna kick in and you're gonna grow out of your skin condition. So that was like one of the best things I could hear. Is like, a 10-year-old or whatever, 11-year-old. I'm like being teased constantly from the kids at school because I'm like the different one, the guy, the lizard skin guy, the snake skin dude. Seriously, no, I mean, no matter why you're different, it's just not fun being teased as a child. It could really hinder your development, And so, I was really, and especially because I was going to get in my teenage years and start to date. I mean, what girl wants to go with the lizard skin dude, right? Like, probably nobody. So anyways, so then they said when I was 13, I mean, there might be some chicks that are into that stuff, but, I don't know, man. I never found one yet. But anyways, I was going to be 13. They said you're going to grow out of it at 13. So my, 11th birthday came, nothing happened. My 12th birthday came, I woke up in the morning, nothing happened. I woke up on my 13th birthday, the morning of my 13th birthday. I'm like, I'm a teenager, I'm going to grow out of my skin condition. That's what the doctor said, right? Because we all listen to the doctor. He knows what's up. And guess what?
It was there.
It was there. Nothing changed, man. So even in, 13, going through my teenage years, my skin was quite dry and stuff. And only after I went on this Arise and Shine cleanse, which every hour and a half I did a psyllium bentonite shake and some herbs, did I cleanse out what looked like fecal rope material or something. And I remember after the cleanse, taking a shower in the shower, and I looked over my whole body, and my skin was 100% cleared up. And I was like, wow, this is totally huge. Then I started crying in the shower. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't know if I'm happy because like my skin's cleared up and I'm normal for once, or I got to do this damn raw foods diet for the rest of my life. Because in the book he said if you're going to go on this cleanse, you shouldn't go back to eating the cooked food, the toxic stuff that's going to, toxify you again. So then it's like, I'm like, okay, I guess I got to do this raw foods diet because this is proven. The doctors could not do this with any of their stuff, over the counter, under the counter. I didn't grow out of it, and this is the only thing that ever helped it. And it builds my immune system like they said, and I'm just like, okay, so this is what I'm doing. So based on that story, you now know my story on why I get into raw foods is specifically for my health. So, I started my raw foods journey in 1995. I know some of you guys here, might have been born when I started raw foods. But I've been doing this a long time here. So, with every year I do it, and as I go on in my journey, I learn more and more that I'm able to share with people, because I know a lot of people are brand new into it, and I think we just get wiser as you get older in most cases. And for me, because I got into this specifically for my health, to build my health, that's still my #1 goal with raw foods today. My #1 raw foods goal today is so that I don't end up in the hospital still to this day. So another tip I want you guys to take from this topic, or this talk today, is #1, have a reason to do raw foods. Whether it is to save your life, to not end up in a hospital, which is kind of a negative reason, or whether it's to leave the most active life so that you could have more energy to go surfing, or you could, lose weight, or you could see your grandkids graduate, or, whatever it is. I mean, everybody always has a different reason, and I don't care what your reason is, but just have a strong reason, because it'll keep you motivated in those times when that might be a little bit harder. So this still keeps me motivated to this day to improve my diet and to be as healthy as I can. So I'm constantly like researching and learning new things to, to make myself healthier. And I've done the gamut of different raw foods diets. I mean, when I got into raw foods, there was no such thing as cacao. There was no such thing as agave. There was no such thing as the kuma or maca powder. I mean, these things were not even available. When I got into raw foods, we had fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. I mean, that's pretty much it. It was just real foods, whereas nowadays we got all these packaged foods. There was no such thing as kale chips even, man. Could you imagine a world without kale chips or Laura bars? I mean, man, just fruits and vegetables. Wouldn't that get boring? Well, that's what I did for so many years, And yes, I didn't do like a low-fat diet. I probably did higher fat at the time, because especially when you're transitioning, I find that you might need a little bit more fat to keep you satiated, because the standard American diet is actually so high in fat. Nowadays, what I do and what I recommend is a low-fat, raw vegan diet. And for me, At the last Woodstock, we got around a table, all the pioneers there, and we all agreed, according to the Woodstock, low fat meant 25% of calories or below from fat. Now, I know many of you guys might be on a more closer to 10%, and all range from 10 to 25%. I mean, I was just in Florida. How many people saw my videos? My mango video in Florida. A couple dedicated people, yeah. So I went to like Florida, I found a mango farm, organic mangoes. I bought 50 pounds of mangoes, and I was only in town for like 4 more days. So guess what I ate for 4 days? Pretty much mono mango meals every single meal. I mean, there maybe like, I had 2 days where I might have had a dinner at Hippocrates. Just kind of going the other direction, but for the most part I was eating these mangoes were insane. I had 10 different distinct varieties, not hot water dipped. Most of them were non-stringy, and some of them tasted like you're eating flowers. No, seriously, that was called the lemon meringue mango. Wow. They were like the kidney bean shaped mango, the East Indian mango, not the stringy ones, and they're incredible. So I have a video on that if you want to learn about that place. If you're down in South Florida, it's in Delray Beach. You want to check that place out. So there'll be days when I'll do 10% fat, but then I'll go up to 25 max. Normally I'm around 15 to 20. So I like to do my goal is to do just fruits and vegetables, and then 1 or 2 handfuls at the most of nuts or seeds a day. So that way I could meet in my opinion, my nutritional requirements, get some fats, and always rotate them. Don't just have flax seeds every day, or don't just have almonds every day, or macadamia nuts every day. I try to always today I'm gonna have Brazil nuts, tomorrow I'll have sesame seeds, the next day I'll have Nevada grown pine nuts that I have to crack in the shell. That's another tip. If you're gonna eat nuts, buy them in the shell, because number 1, they're gonna be fresher, they're not gonna go rancid as fast. Number 2, it's gonna way slow you down in eating them. If you're cracking enough pine nuts to eat, a handful, dude, that's just gonna take you hours. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is if I go to the movies at the movie theater, I'll take a bag of pine nuts. You can't eat them fast enough. You gotta crack each one, then you put one in, you get like that much nut meat, man. It's like a joke, and then you're like, dude, another one. And it's like after the whole movie, I might have had like half a handful of nuts, man.
Is it loud? Is it loud? Like.
No, the pine nut shells are really soft, actually.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, most people buy the pine nuts in the store, and they're imported from China, and most of those, in my opinion, are like rancid. So luckily, there's a lady called Pine Nut Penny on the internet. You can actually order Nevada-grown pine nuts from BLM lands that she harvests, and then she'll sell to you in the shell. Like I got them actually in Las Vegas. I found a lady there in Las Vegas that actually harvests them, and I bought them in the shell. And I mean, they're just so much better fresh because they actually have a higher moisture content. They're higher in water content than really dried, because if they're selling them in the store, they got to be dried, because if they're still moist, they're going to go bad. But how I store them is I just store them. You can store them in like a burlap bag or like a paper bag, so it could breathe, right? Not in a plastic bag, because then they'll get all funky on you. And they'll still good, because the seeds are in all the plants so that the plant can actually reproduce and grow into a new tree, not necessarily for us to eat. And I have a really good video on that, and how many people have seen the video I did with almonds? Well, couple people maybe. I did a video with almonds. So my brother has a nice almond tree in his backyard, and I climbed up into the almond tree to harvest almonds, and I got like half a paper bag full in the husk still. I dehusked them, then I had a whole bunch in the shell, and then I had to shell them, and then after I took them out of the shell, I had about half of a 32-ounce mason jar of almonds. Right? And this took like at least like an hour to pick, and then to hand shell, to get the husk off, like another hour, and then to crack them all.
And they're not available all year round either.
And they're not available all year round either. But meanwhile, you go into Whole Foods, lift up the bulk thing, you got a whole bunch, man. And like, man, John would have took all day to get this many.
So like,
they were good. But this year I'm gonna rock dust my brother's tree, because he doesn't add anything to it. So he bought the house that had an almond tree in there, and it just kind of grows. That's why it grows. And he doesn't eat that stuff. I mean, people don't eat the food in their backyard. That's ludicrous. It's got to come from the grocery store, the restaurant, right? It's ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, that's why I do a low fat, but not omit overts like many people, because there are some beneficial fats. I've done recently some testing with my blood and omega-3 and 6 ratios and balance, and based on what I've seen in my experience, if you eat no overts and you're eating lots of leafy greens and fruits, your omega-3 to 6 balance is going to be fine, because in leafy greens there's actually a good balance of omega-3s. But the minute you eat like too many fats, especially like a lot of raw food restaurants will have things based on nuts, and it's like a lot of nuts and no greens, you could really jack up your 3 and 6 ratios like out of balance. So like things like almonds, like is a nut that I generally try to avoid for the most part. I had some samples at the farmer's market in Hollywood today. You know, just like about four nuts. That's all he would give me for free. I would have ate more if he were there for free. But but almonds are like 2,000 to 1. So they're like very high in 6 and very low in 3s. So then if you're doing almonds, then you better have that other handful of like flax seeds to off balance it. But if you eat just a small amount, then that's not going to mess your balance up too much, especially if you're eating leafy greens. And that's another reason, you know, for me, in my opinion, it's very important, especially, how many people are on pure fruitarian diets, like not eat any vegetables? Okay, good. I'm so grateful. The thing is, you know, while a fruit diet's great, I highly think that we really need our greens. And my goal is to eat 2 pounds of leafy greens a day. Leafy greens contain more minerals than the fruits. And, you know, they're just so phytonutrient rich. Like according to the Andy scoring system, how many people know what that is? ANDI, a handful. Yeah. So the Andy scoring system, if you go into any Whole Foods market, it's called the Andy scoring system, ANDI, Aggregate Nutrient Density Index, and this is a system that Dr. Joel Fuhrman made up and came up with. He's a really good doctor. He wrote a book called Eat to Live, and he advocates a plant-based diet, not all raw, but cooked, but actually it's a high carb. And he says that the vegetables per calorie have the most nutrition, so all the phytochemicals, phytonutrients, vitamins, and minerals, you know, compared to anything on the planet. And then guess what's after the vegetables? Fruits. The fruits. So that's what I'm eating. I'm eating the highest nutrient density foods on the planet, the fruits and vegetables. And, you know, let's not forget the vegetables, because I think a lot of people on a 80-10-10 diet may tend to focus on the fruits and maybe eat 1 or 2 heads of romaine lettuce a day. And I would encourage everybody to eat a wide variety of leafy greens, not just the romaine lettuce. Eat some arugula. I want to encourage everybody to try before you guys leave. Maybe I'll grab one right here to show you guys. You guys want to grab some of these tops here and eat these guys. How many people know what these guys are? Flowers. These are flowers, but these are very special flowers. Arugula. These are arugula flowers, man. To me, because I don't eat barbecue anymore, these taste like barbecue sauce. I don't eat barbecue stuff. But these taste like barbecue sauce, and these are great. These are probably one of my favorite flowers to eat, but like most people don't eat the flowers. In addition, besides the nutrients that are contained within the arugula, you guys are getting a little bit of that pollen in here, in the little yellow tips. This is what the bees go around to collect. So why buy bee pollen when you could eat the flowers and eat the pollen directly without having to, you know, have the bees collected for you? Plus, it's just so good. And plus, you're getting all the phytochemicals and phytonutrients in the little flower petals. So I like to eat not only the white flower petals, but I like, you know, violas and nasturtiums, all the different ranges of colors too. But yeah, don't forget your leafy greens are a wide variety too. So, you know, that's why we'll talk a little bit later about growing your own food. And you could bring in a lot more varieties than you could even buy, like at Whole Foods or the standard health food store. What you're going to find is they always have certain things. They always got the lettuce, they always got the kales. They've got like the bok choy and some of these other, you know, vegetables that we're used to. Now the problem with the stores is that, you know, the vegetables that they sell in the stores are the plants and the crops that are going to do well under cold storage. These are the crops that we would grow in this winter time because, you know, they don't get affected by when it freezes and whatnot. And that's why they're good to sell, because, you know, if it's in the ground and it freezes, they'll still be alive. And if you cut them, ship them in cooler in trucks, you know, they'll still be alive and look good for you. You'll rarely ever find tropical leafy greens like Malabar spinach, like Katuk, like Okinawan spinach that are available in the store, because once you cut and harvest them, and if you put them in the fridge, they'll actually like start wilting and they'll go bad first, and nobody would buy that stuff. Yeah. Occasionally you'll find some Asian markets that have a high turnover rate that will put those out regularly, you know, and get fresh shipments in. But for the most part, you can't find those things. And that's why, you know, if you grow your own food, you could bring in such a more, you know, diversity of food into your life, because each different food has a whole set of different phytonutrients and phytochemicals, most of which have not been discovered. I mean, in broccoli sprouts, they have discovered that there's things in there that help fight cancer. But what about, like, you know, in purple tree tomatoes or tamarillo fruits, you know? Who knows what's in there? There's so many different kinds of different foods that has been unresearched. So, like, I'm not going to wait for the research. Like, I'm not waiting for the research on the cell phones. I'm not going to wait for the research on the, you know, the little Malabar spinach berries that are nice and purple that have some kick-ass antioxidants in there to wait on the research on that. I'm just going to freaking eat them because they taste good anyways. And also, I like to eat things of color that are deep in color because I know they just got to be good for me. You know, they might have good nutrients in there. So yeah, so one of the ways I've been really successful in, building upon my diet is by always continually experimenting. And that's one of the tips I'm going to give you today, because I said I'll give you 2 tips. One is always continue to experiment. For you, maybe getting to raw foods might just be an experiment. I'm just going to try this raw foods diet, so, we're going to see how it works. If it doesn't work, I could go back to what I'm doing anytime. I always want you guys to continue and keep an open mind and experiment about things. Maybe you think the 80-10-10 diet is working for you now, but I want you guys always to be, aware that, you might always want to try, maybe, if you're not eating any salt, for example. I just talked to my friend in Texas, and he's on an 80-10-10 diet. He's not been eating any salt, and from what he's told me, like, his athletic performance, because he's a runner, was going up and up and up, and then it got to a point, and now it was like tapering off a little bit on his 80-10-10 diet without any salt. And I'm like, and I told him, I'm like, hey man, like, salt is an essential nutrient. If you're getting enough from your food, that's great, but if you're not paying attention, not eating enough celery and other leafy greens that have a good sodium content, you might not be getting enough from your food. And you could totally get enough from your food if you pay attention, but if you're just eating things randomly and not paying attention, you might not be getting enough. So I told him, hey man, you might want to eat some things with more salt. So what you could do is just start juicing straight celery and drinking that if you wanted to get it from food. But he decided to just put like a quarter teaspoon in with water and drink it every day. And then, like, that's not a lot of salt. But then he started doing that, and for the few days that I was there, he said, John, after I've been eating, a little quarter teaspoon of salt, I feel better. I'm like, I feel that I'm running stronger. Because, we do need sodium. And, a lot of things in diet, there's always that, like, oh, well, these are the rules, this is what I have to follow. And it may not always be like that, so I want you guys to be open to these things. I'm not saying that you should take any salt like that if you don't want to, you don't think you need to. But the best way to know is you could get a medical test and see if you have enough sodium in your bloodstream. Because I have had people and friends that are on a high fruit diet that don't eat any salt, and then they've actually been salt deficient. So, salt's an essential nutrient, and we need to get enough from wherever you're going to get it, whether it's your fruits and vegetables, whether you choose to eat some seaweed like I do, or whether you want to maybe add some sauerkraut, some fermented foods that have, low amounts of salt or something like that. I will do that because I feel it is that important. Let's see here. Yeah, so also learning and growing, besides always keeping an open mind about things, another way that's really important to, increase what you're doing now is by growing your own food. I mean, I always want you guys to be open to trying new things, maybe try that extra, teaspoon of extra nuts and see how you feel, even though you've shunned it for so long because it's not supposed to be good. We do need some fats. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you guys trying extracted oils, but some nuts, that's a whole food. We should be all right with some whole foods. And the other way besides that is growing your own food. By growing your own food, you're going to increase the quality of the food you're bringing in now. Because I know all you guys pretty much here are like plant-based raw eaters, eat lots of fruits and vegetables. But what if you grew your own bananas and had your own bananas grown in rock dust soil that's picked, ripe off the tree instead of, shipped in from far away, and then it's gas, and then they just don't taste good. One of the cool things I learned in my recent trip to Florida is that one of the reasons why imported bananas don't taste good is because they pick them when they're green, and then they gas them, and then they ripen up really fast. On the tree, if they're ripening, like, all the bananas won't, like, be on the tree. Then all of a sudden they're ripe in one day, right? If we're looking at that loquat tree there, you'll see a lot of the ripe fruits that are, like, getting really dark orange, and I checked, none of them are super ripe where I'd want to eat them yet. They're edible still, but, I'm not going to eat them until they're fully ripe. But you can see some of the shade differences. Some are still kind of green. Some are more like yellow-green. Some are like yellow, and you can find a few that are really dark orange, man. And they all ripen at different stages. And on the banana plant, they would ripen at different stages, and they would ripen slowly. So the top ones would kind of ripen first, and then the ethylene gas that the ripe ones are emitting would kind of move down the rack into the bottom ones, and they'd all ripen slowly. So you just be picking the ones off the top and eating them. So when they ripen slowly, they develop more flavor than when they ripen them fast with the gassing. So this is why one of the reasons why I like, tree ripened fruit. So if you're not growing your own trees, and the best place is at least the farmer's market, where hopefully they're picking at least riper. Or actually, I really like, instead of farmer's markets, if they have any around here, like you pick places where you can actually select the fruit off the tree yourself and make sure you get the ripest stuff instead of having somebody else select it for you, or grow your own. Now, besides getting the ripest fruit, by growing your own foods, you'll also be able to really expand the amount of vegetables you're going to be able to eat and consume. I talked about growing the cole crops, but there's so many different other crops besides the ones that have been refrigerated that are going to last in transit. There's so many different leafy greens. I mean, if you go to my car, I have like 2 flats of just different greens that I'm be growing. One of them actually is a really cool one I just learned about today. So like when I learned about a new plant, it's really exciting to me. This is a plant from like China that you can just pick leaves and it tastes like hot peppers, but it's a leafy green. It's pretty insane. So the guy at the Hollywood Farmers Market had it.
Nice.
So yeah, that's really cool. So I mean, you could get all these different flavors. If you don't want to eat hot peppers, you could just eat these leaves that are kind of hot and spicy that'll imitate that. I kind of eat some hot peppers because I like them, but I know some of you guys might not. But there's so many different varieties of things. I mean, a lot of, probably if we just go out for a walk in the canyon here, I'm not a wild foods expert, but I'm sure I could pick out at least a half dozen plants that I know that are edible. And if we went out here with a wild food expert, I mean, probably the majority of these things are edible. I mean, there's deers and rabbits and all this stuff, and they're just coming around here and eating. I mean, they're not starving, they're just eating all the greens here. So, you know, by growing your own food, you could have a much wider diversity of foods you could eat, plus also you could grow higher quality foods. That's something that's really important to me. As you guys know, I got into this for my health, and, you know, I always want to improve my health however I can. And, you know, while I got to that point where I was always eating fruits and vegetables as the mainstay of my diet, I'm like, John, you got a problem now, man. You're eating fruits and vegetables. It's already the best diet. How can you make it better? Do I need to add superfood supplements in to make it better? That wasn't totally my answer. My answer was to increase the quality of the fruits and vegetables that I'm putting in my body to make my diet better, not by, you know, stuff in a packaged bottle or jar that may or may not make my life better, because this is guaranteed to make my life better. So you could grow things in compost, and they got some, you know, good compost and stuff back here, organic compost, and then you're going to put, even more important than the organic compost, you want to put the trace mineral supplementation in. So in soils, standard, you know, farmers, especially conventional growers, will put in fertilizer, the bag of fertilizer, because that's how you bring, you know, the nutrients into the plants. You put a fertilizer. And I mean, if it was like that, we'd be able to take like a Centrum pill, and we'd take Centrum and live on Centrum pills and, you know, not have to eat anything. And that's what conventional farmers and even some organic farmers, they put NPK on their crops. And yes, they have organic NPK onto their crops. And it's basically like giving a small range of the nutrients that the plant really needs. So what I like to do is I like to put the probiotics, the beneficial bacteria, the beneficial fungi in my soil, which also are symbiosis with us. We have, you know, fungi and bacteria in us right now, as you guys are sitting there. And some people would say even we're more bacteria than even human cells. But they work with us to help us digest our food, like probiotics in our guts. And that's what they do in the soil as well. The probiotics in the soil basically, you know, attach on to some of the nutrients in the soil and then make it available for the plants so the plants could bring it into them. And besides adding the nutrients and the beneficial biologics in the soil, we also want to put the trace minerals in the soil. And that's what I'm super huge on. You know, as I said, standard farming puts in 3 minerals, but I put in 90 plus minerals into my soil in the form of different sea waters, in the different forms of rock dust powders, and I use 3 different kinds to ensure that my plants have it. Like if you go, you know, here at the Fruit Luck today, I mean, there's all different kinds of fruits. We don't just have like only apples to eat. You can have anything you want. And so like I want to put all these minerals in you know, down below my plants so that they could absorb what they want. I don't know what they need, but I'm just going to give it to them all. It's like going to a smorgasbord like here, or going to a place that like, oh yeah, we only got the bananas that are not ripe. Eat at your own risk. You know? So like, I want to give my plants everything and let them absorb it, because guess what? When they absorb it, they're going to be happier. I've never seen any of my plants smile, but they're happier because they're going to grow larger for me so that I can eat more. They're going to be more bug and disease resistant. But more importantly, and most importantly for me, they're going to be more nutritious for me, because when the plants have what they need in the soil, they could pull it up into their cells, and then I could eat the plants, like the leafy greens, for the minerals that are now in there. There's many studies that show, like, from the 1950s to now, and this is not even considering maybe like organic, conventional and organic, like the nutrients in an apple. I don't know what the exact range is, but the apple from the 1950s and the apples of today, you have to eat like 2.5 apples today to get the same nutrients that were in the apples of the 1950s. Now, is that because of, you know, hybridization, or is that because the soils are depleted? Well, it could be part of both. In my opinion, it's mostly because the soils are depleted. So I want to be able to eat less food, get more nutrition, and get the nutrition that people are not getting so that I don't end up in the hospital. So that's why it's really important to start growing your own food. I have a YouTube channel, Growing Your Greens, where it's dedicated to teaching people how to grow their own food if they don't have any experience like that. and in just a little bit, we're probably going to go over with Evan and make a video on specifically growing here in his situation and some of my tips and techniques for him. I mean, that's pretty much my 2 tips. Number 1, always keep an open mind and experiment. You know, you could always go back to doing what you're doing, you know, tomorrow if whatever you're trying new doesn't work, but what if you're going to try something new and it might work better? You might feel better because you're adding just a little bit of salt, or because you're adding a little bit more nuts, or because now you're cranking up and juicing some greens instead of just blending them up, because, you know, and removing the fiber. So I just want you guys to keep an open mind, always improve whatever you're doing. That way you'll, you know, be as healthy as you can. You'll get everything you want in life. And also, you know, the other thing is start growing your own food. Even if you don't have space to do it like this, you live in an apartment, you could grow sprouts in trays, you could grow microgreens in trays. It's super simple, and have all the videos you guys need on YouTube to do that. Alright, you guys made it through the whole video, man. I think that was like 38 minutes for me, and a talk that's like pretty short actually, because I could just go on and on and on. And you know, I didn't really have an outline or anything. I just started talking, and I had a few points that I wanted to cover, and I felt that I covered them really well. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'm actually going to be answering questions that I took actually at the same Fruit Luck. Another half hour's worth of questions, and you'll definitely get to hear some answers to some questions you've probably had before that you'd like to ask me. So stay tuned for that video. And once again, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to my channel if you're not a subscriber already, to be notified of all the upcoming episodes, including that upcoming question and answer episode coming up probably within about a week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time. And remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're the best.